Hi, I'm Tony, and I thought I'd put an explanation on what I'm trying to achieve here. I spent a lifetime in dentistry, and I think we can all from, learn from the past and why we do what we do. I think we can do an awful lot more now, and we should have dentistry central, not on the periphery of providing general health. And we can't rely on anyone else to do it, so why not do it ourselves? I hope there's something in here that you like. I'm going to add videos at different times in my career and kind of reflect on what I knew then and what I know now and what I would do different and what maybe we should do different. But most of all, it's to help you think about what we're doing. And I think if you think about what you're doing and maintain an interest, then the job becomes a lot easier. So I had lots of lots of difficulties. So I'll go through them. And yeah, I think that there are two things that I'm not sure if these are good things or bad, but my son said I was the most resilient person he knew. So I don't, well, anyway, that's probably a good thing. And my other friend said years ago, he said I was the most optimistic person he knew, and I always thought this was a compliment, but now I'm not so sure. Anyway, let's see how we get on.
So this is me with Denise. She was with me for 20 years. And I've put an average dentist there, but hopefully I was a bit above average. But everyone thinks they're better than they are. Anyway, I also think that an average general dentist is far better than a specialist. And that's a different thing altogether, so I'll mention that. But we need to be supporting average dentists who actually carry out the majority of the work and the needs of the general public. So, how can we change that? And the other part about this is, why did I do it in the first place? And this is why. So this is my dad, and he's holding a camera case in one hand, and it's very unusual to have a photo of him. And the one on the left, he's obviously having a good time, having a drink with a cigarette. Every year I turn more and more into my dad, but I never smoked. And yeah, this is part of the problem. So hopefully I'll escape it. And the other reason is I tried my best to work within the health service. I even fell out with all my partners and started a squat. And initially I was supported by the health service, but then they pulled the rug from under my feet and I very nearly went bankrupt. But I have learnt a lot from that. And what I've learnt is prevention can pay. So that's one of the things I'm trying to show. So my dad and mum got married in Liverpool in '58, and a year later I came along, and so for a while we lived in Liverpool, and I went to the school at Anfield Road. You may have heard of it, and that's me on the left with my brother, and my dad with two pipes in his mouth. We'll get to it. And on the right we moved to Anglesey. My dad got a job as an engineer, partly because he was so good at football. Um, yeah, and we moved there because that's where the work was. So when we moved to Anglesey, I was put in the wrong year, and that continued right through until I sat my O levels. And I was lucky to sit O levels because I was at a comprehensive school. If I'd stayed in Liverpool, I'd have been in secondary modern. And so I'm one of the few, well, I think I'm the only one of our family that went to university. And it's a big family. The A level results weren't that great, but I did go through clearing to do chemistry. But bizarrely, I found out I could have done dentistry, which is what I wanted to do first off. And so I kind of had a funny year. I think you call it a gap year now, but mine were resits. But I got in and I qualified in '82. But the highlight in '82 was winning the golf competition when my dad was captain of the local club. And he never managed it. I never mentioned it to him. I never mentioned that I was a club champion, and he wasn't. One of the few bits of advice my dad gave me was when I told him I got accepted for chemistry and I could do dentistry. He said, "Oh, chemistry's good, but dentistry's a profession." And this is someone who never really went to school. He had rheumatic fever in his teens. Never thanked me for him telling for me telling him to tell his dentist um, before he had his tooth out. He waited till after he'd had the anaesthetic, Yeah, so yeah, he had a few anaesthetics. He had to go back the following week. We don't give antibiotics for rheumatic fever anymore. That's something to reflect on. So I inherited my dad's, well, probably his looks. I definitely inherited his voice, and I inherited his sociability and like fondness of going to the pub with his mates. What I didn't inherit was his ability to head a football. He was a fantastic header of the ball, and you can see the consequences there. As on my 50th birthday, we all had name tags, and as you know, half the England football team from 1966 ended up with dementia, and that's what was happening here. As he deteriorated in March 2016, we tried to get some respite care, but they couldn't look after him. They didn't have the knowledge, and they called the police, and he ended up in a mental health unit in Bangor, which was a disaster. And then he got moved to the Kevney ward in Llangefni, and he never came out. But the carers there were brilliant. But I always remember my dad saying to me in the mental health unit, "Don't come and see me ever again, Tony. I don't want you to remember me like this." Well, clearly I kept seeing him, but there was nothing I could do, and it's so frustrating. And at that time, I'd sold my business to a corporate, so I had time on my hands, and so I thought, well, maybe I can help people who are carers, and lots of my patients were carers, and so that's what I decided to do. So if you go to the careforteeth.org website, this is what you'll find. It's better if you go on your phone. And yeah, so I got YouTube videos for carers. Most of them are still on there. And then after that, I thought, oh, I'll put on some for adults and teenagers and advice for children. And then after that, I thought, well, apps are out. Maybe I could make an app. And so I thought, well, I had a bit of money from selling the business, so I can't write an app. I got someone to do that. But halfway through, they said, you can't use these videos. You're going to have to make your own. So I had to learn how to make videos. So if you look through YouTube, Teeth for Life YouTube, I've left them all on there. All the mistakes, hopefully some good bits. And the idea was that other people can use them and send them like I did. Yeah, but none of these things were available when you first started. We had no mobile phones or anything. But you can see there some of my interests is I do think we can help the general public with cancer screening. And I do think we can support the NHS even if we're not in it. And I certainly think we can support people in care homes and those who care for people at home who never tell us because they're too proud. There's so much more we could do. Yeah, and so last year, despite waiting for other people to do it, I got in touch with our crowd and yeah, we had a reunion. Well, I'd say nearly everyone had retired, and the ones that were healthiest were the ones that had moved out the health service. Anyway, and so this is the type of video I can make now. And anyone can make these if they just spend a little bit of time doing it. And obviously the videos within the app related to teeth. But why not have a couple of videos there related to general health, about diet, about mental well-being and physical health? We have to have an integrated care pathway. And I think people trust us, and we should play on that and try and help improve everyone's health. The one thing that we find out about the health service is that the waiting lists go longer. Well, that's because people keep on going it. There are two ways of reducing it. One is doing the treatment, and the other one is stopping people getting on there. And so, yeah, Dominic Cummings, remember him? He asked for some further ideas. So I made a video. Again, if you go into YouTube, you'll find that. I think it's about 7 minutes long. And it's about the same thing that we're trying to do. More recently, I've engaged with a different group, what we used to call the community dentists. And this is a slide that they presented. And it's interesting in that, we don't all have to be experts to help improve oral health. Everyone has a phone, and we should be showing people, how to do it via their phone or someone that they trust passes on the details. And within that, then we can also include other things apart from dental health, about general health. Every little helps. If you look back to the Olympics in 2012, we got so many not gold weddings, gold medals in cycling because of just slight incremental changes. And that's what we need. We need not